Well, Ilhan Omar is just a complete nut, isn't she? I mean, just insane, like crazy. JD Vance knows it. You know it. We all know it. JD Vance actually said something about it, and they went back and forth. And it's real. It's popcorn time. We enjoyed it, and you will too. Also, Jasmine Crockett. She's a little nut burger. Jasmine Crockett doesn't like the idea that people in this country illegally might be enticed to, leave and go home. That's Trump's new brilliant plan. It's a great end around from the judicial blockades that have been put up in front of him. It makes perfect sense, and that's why the left hates it. Also, Scott Jennings had a hell of a day yesterday, absolutely blowing apart the new false narrative from the left. We got it all for you. I'm so glad to be back. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Listen, if you missed the show, the live show that is, over the last couple of days, please give us a thumbs up right now because we are back and we are live and we hit our regular format. Thanks for enjoying our pre-recorded interviews that we did. I think they were pretty awesome. A lot of you liked a ton of them, but I appreciated you wanted me to be back. So here I am. So in return, give us some thumbs up, give us some likes, give us some love all across the platform that you're watching right now. Let's talk about bricks, shall we? No, not those things you build a house with. No, this July, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. This is a block of emerging superpowers like China, Russia, India, even Iran. They're meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. Have you even heard about this? You should be paying attention because these BRICS nations push forward with their plans. That means global demand for U.S. dollars might decrease. That brings down the value of the dollar in your savings. Now, this transition might not happen overnight, but they're getting the ball rolling. The Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment here when the BRICS objectives may move decisively from theoretical possibility toward inevitable reality. But your hands aren't tied here. You need to learn about diversifying your savings into gold. See if it's right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting my name, Larry, L-A-R-R-Y, to 989898. We've got an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. They got tens of thousands of happy customers. Please let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Resets. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do it today. We all know Ilhan Omar. She's the congresswoman representing the District of Somalia there in the great state of Minnesota. And I overstate the case, but it sounds sometimes like she represents a foreign country and has their interests at heart more than the interests of the United States citizens. A clip of her waxing poetic about how dangerous it is here in America, compared to her home country of Somalia. This clip has been making the rounds. Perhaps you've seen it on social media. Here, take a look.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. We should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men. I would say
nothing crazy about that. Ilhan Omar, ladies and gentlemen, ain't she a gem? So yeah, just like you, just like me, you probably saw that clip and you probably even added a comment to it yourself as you posted it around on your social media profile, just like JD Vance did. He's the vice president of the United States. He saw it and said, well, he said, this isn't just sick, it's actually genocidal language. What a disgrace this person is. Well said, Vice President Vance. But Ilhan Omar, she decided to reply. I do love it when these elected officials go back and forth on social media, don't you? She says, in this nearly 8-year-old clip, I shouldn't make fun of her voice because people will call me names. But there's something about when she said, some people did something. Just fingernails on the chalkboard, right? It's just like, how some people just do that? In this nearly 8-year-old clip. Now, first of all, by prefacing it with that, it's like, this was 8 years ago. Come on. You can't hold that against me, right? Right? In this nearly 8-year-old clip, I'm referring to the. By the way, did you notice the little bug on the TV? This is for Al Jazeera television. She was talking to. In this nearly 8-year-old clip, I'm referring to the rise of white nationalism in an annual report issued by the Anti-Defamation League. We know about the Anti-Defamation League and how politicized they are. You know, it's actually run by a former Obama White House staffer. He decided to take over after the Obama administration and turn it from a group that just defends anti-Semitism or defends against anti-Semitism to a organization that basically attacks anything conservative or Republican or right wing. So, of course, 8 years ago, let's see who was running for president, who had just become president. That would be Donald Trump. So the ADL comes up and says, oh, we got a rise of white nationalism. So you see how this sort of circle jerk works, right? These NGOs and nonprofit groups like Anti-Defamation League, who also get government funding, by the way, used to be a great group when it was run by Abe Hoffman. Now it's a political weapon. It's like the Southern Poverty Law Center. They get money and they push out reports that then people like Ilhan Omar can use to attack you for being a proud American. In this nearly 8-year-old clip, I'm referring to the rise of white nationalism in an annual report issued by the Anti-Defamation League that said white supremacists were responsible for 78% of extremist-related murders. By the way, real fast, Anti-Defamation League, you might, Ilhan Omar, want to look at some other reports that the ADL has put out and bring them to the attention of some of your colleagues like Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know, your pals who love Hamas and the Palestinians. I mean, let's not pick and choose and just cherry pick the reports that we like from ADL, Ilhan, because we got some other reports that you and your squad friends might not like that much. White supremacists were responsible for 78% of extremist-related murders. Nobody believes that stat. P.S. When you look up what genocidal actually means, when you're actively supporting a genocide taking place in Gaza. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Always wanting to support Hamas. All right. So Ilhan Omar says that it's an 8-year-old clip. And if you really looked at the full context, you would understand just what a brainiac, sensitive woman she is. Well, guess what? We've got more context. Yeah, that's right. We found much bigger version of the clip. And Larry, there you go. Al Jazeera. So here's an American politician with her full turban, going on foreign funded media, funded by huge oil barons who have connections to terrorist groups, to talk about how trashy, unsafe, and horrible it is to be in America.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York. What do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country. And so if fear was the driving force of policies to keep America safe, Americans safe inside of this country, we should be profiling, monitoring, and creating policies to fight the radicalization of white men.
There you go. See, now you have the context. We just needed the context, everybody. You got to hear the question she's asked.
A lot of conservatives in particular would say that the rise in Islamophobia is a result not of hate, but of fear, a legitimate fear, they say, of quote-unquote jihadist terrorism, whether it's Fort Hood or San Bernardino or the recent truck attack in New York.
I do love this, quote-unquote jihadist terror. And then he cites 3 recent attacks, but, you know, he left out a whole lot more. You know, maybe it starts with the 3,000 murdered on September 11th, the attack and destruction of the World Trade Center, the billions of dollars of destruction, and the attack on our Pentagon. Maybe that may be part of it too. Maybe the fact that we have to stand in line for an hour and a half taking off our shoes before we go on a plane. This quote-unquote supposed, we think it's an imaginary thing, jihadist terror, that might not happen. That context makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Now we understand what she meant. It's totally reasonable what she had to say. The real fear in America is white people. It's totally safer where you're sitting right now in the Middle East. Should totally safer to walk down the streets of Tehran right now. I mean, God forbid Ilhan Omar walk down the streets of Tehran and have one little lock of her hair be visible. because then she'll be beaten to a pulp. But it's totally safer because there's no white men there, you see. So it's a whole lot safer. God knows it's a lot safer in Somalia, where Ilhan Omar came from. Why did she come here again, by the way? Is it just on a student visa? She wanted to get higher education, although one would expect her to go to one of the great universities in Somalia. I don't think they have any universities in Somalia. Why did she come here? Oh, she came here because her country is torn up in a civil war and has been for decades. And it's not because of white people, I assure you. She came here to save her life. She came here as a refugee. She came here because our nation opened up its generous arms to allow her safe haven from the, yes, genocidal civil war in her own home country, where white men had literally absolutely nothing to do with it, I promise you. But it's good that she knows now where the real threat is. Maybe it's time she go back where she came from. Am I allowed to say that? I mean, again, I'm not saying it because I'm racist. I'm not saying it because I'm xenophobic or because I'm anti-Islamic or anything like that. This is just a truly rational observation. I'm not one of those, oh, you go back where you came from if you don't like here. No, no, no. It has nothing to do with that. I promise you. This is the logical conclusion to what Ilhan Omar says right now about her fear in this country. Once again,
what do you say to them?
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country, because
you see, this is nothing that she would need to fear in Somalia. So it just seems, again, not in any sort of racist way, ma'am. If it is legit to be fearful of white men in America, then clearly you would feel safer in Somalia, protected from all of us. I assure you that if I asked for super chats right now to raise money for your airfare on a one-way ticket on Somalia Airlines, we'd be able to raise that money. Not that I'm asking for that, but I assure you we would. But listen, Ilhan Omar is very afraid of white men. That's why we are really, really worried about her current situation. You see, we had some crack photographers and photojournalists at Town Hall Media sort of doing some research and tracking her. And apparently this guy's been stalking her. I mean, he goes wherever she goes. He even like sneaks into the car with them when they're driving around and sneaks into her apartment in Washington, D.C. and her home back in her district in Minneapolis. And we know that she should be afraid of him because he represents the greatest danger here in America. He's a white dude. And I'm sorry, what now? Oh, that's impossible. What? All right, well, I'm told that this is her husband. Maybe he's white Hispanic or something like that. Isn't that a thing now? All right, so let me just be clear here. If you're fearful of any race in this country, it should be white men, because they're responsible for all of the racist hate and violence. And she then went ahead and married one of them, one of us. Well, that's weird. Oh, now I know why she's not going back to Somalia. Ain't no way hubby's going back there. Hey, honey, I think I feel safer back in Somalia. Come on, I want to go home now. Home? Ooh. We got to talk, Ilhan. I ain't going to be safe there. That's what, and by the way, isn't it funny that she chooses to marry a white man, but not just any white man, the whitest man in America. Look at that guy. Polo shirt, untucked. It's impressive. Ilhan Omar has a lot to say about making sure her home district is protected and safe and well-funded, and that the people have the schools and all of the infrastructure that they need. That's why she keeps getting reelected there in Tim Walz's Minnesota, because she is so good at making sure that the people in her district are taken care of.
No, in jidadkeennii aan wada dhisano. Anigu waan ahay gabar Mareykanka laga doortay oo Kongresska Mareykanka ku jirto. Laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar waddankeedii laga kaxeeyo weli xiise u qabto in maalin waddankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto. marka alxamdulilah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadda shaqo badan inaan wada qabannaa hadduu ilaahay yidhaahdo oo aan ka dhignaa dhulkeenna dhul barwaaqadiisa dadka oo dhan ay dareemi karaan oo ay arki karaan oo ay ka wada faa'iidaysan karaan.
So I have a dream of raising my children in my home country of Somalia, but there ain't no way I'm coming back here until you people get your together. All right? And so then she spends the rest of the speech talking about how interested she is in building up the infrastructure and fixing the problems in Somalia so that she can then move back. Because otherwise, ain't no way she's leaving the twin cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Because, hey, we got clean running water here. And she keeps getting reelected. I mean, seriously, Minnesota. What the hell? It is weird to see a U.S. congressperson saying, by the way, did she say she was taken from Somalia? Taken from Somalia?
laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar.
I sure hope that's just a bad translation. But these guys are actually pretty good at giving you a good translation. She was taken. No. She fled that country. She was driven out of that country by violence and war and corruption. You know, Somalia. There's something very jarring to see a U.S. congressperson, a U.S. citizen, a refugee from another nation, wearing the traditional clothing of that foreign country, speaking the language of that foreign country, addressing the people of that foreign country, talking about how she dreams to return and raise her children in that country, and then ensuring that she's going to do whatever she can to make sure that life is better in that country so that she can return to it. When, I mean, color me crazy, I thought that her job was to actually do all of those things for her district with our tax dollars here in America, in Minnesota. Which brings us back to JD Vance's original observation. It isn't just sick, it's a genocidal language. What a disgrace this person is. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. Hey, real fast, quick ad here, just 30 seconds from my book, Shameless Liars, How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. I tell you to read this book and buy this book at Amazon on all formats, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook for one reason and one reason only. I was gone last week because my daughter got married and I paid for it. Please buy my book. Please. Please. Thank you. Yesterday, Donald Trump made an amazing announcement in the Oval Office. I'm going to let you hear what it was, and then we're going to discuss. Here it is.
But what we thought we'd do is a self-deport, where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people, if they're the kind of people that we want in our company, industrious people that could love our country. And if they're not, they won't. But it will give them a path to becoming, to coming back into the country. If they miss that limit, they're going to be taken out of our country. And they will never get a path to come back in. And it'll be a much tougher process. And it's called self-deportation. And by doing that, you're talking about so many millions of people. By doing that, by the way, we've taken out thousands of terrorists, drug lords. What we've done is amazing. And I'm sure Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have done an incredible job. They really have done an incredible job. But it's a hard job.
I love how this is in the middle of an announcement about the NFL draft coming to Washington, D.C. in 2027 and about the new stadium for the Washington Redskins. Oh, I'm sorry, Washington Commanders. I refuse to say it. And Roger Goodell there, that Roger Goodell from the NFL, the commissioner, is there during this announcement about deportations and self-deportation. And Trump keeps looking back at him. Goodell's like, yeah. Don't tell my friends on the Upper West Side that I was here, please. So you heard the announcement there, embracing self-deportation. And let's get to the specifics and the details here. Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, actually laid it out on X. This is the choice facing illegal immigrants in this country right now. Leave now, get a free flight, and get an exit bonus, $1,000. See, now, first of all, I think that they should try an interim step here. I think you cut off the benefits. Where you say if you're in this country illegally, you no longer get free healthcare, you no longer get food, you no longer get housing, you no longer get your phones, you no longer get a transportation budget, you no longer get an EBT card, you no longer get education for your children. Fight it in the Supreme Court. It's worth it. You cut off the magnet, you see, that's drawing people here in the first place. Also, by the way, while we're at it, prosecute employers who are employing illegal immigrants in this country, and frickin' Republicans in the House of Representatives pass E-Verify, legit, real E-Verify, so that you don't get a job unless your paperwork, your documentation passes through an electronic portal with the federal government that knows whether your documentation is legit or not. Republicans are standing in the way of that, and they're wrong. So you cut off the reason why people are here. I think they'll self-deport without the free plane trip and without the $1,000. That said, they've decided to go this route, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Number 2, refuse to leave, face a fine of $1,000 daily, prosecution, imprisonment, forfeiture of all assets, garnishment of wages, confiscation of property, deportation whenever and wherever we choose, and add to that, no ability to return to the country legally. It's a pretty good choice, and it makes sense. This is brilliant, first of all, because it will work, because any sane, rational person who's been seeing the last 107 days of deportations, arrests, activities that they never dreamed would happen because they never thought a Republican would be in the White House that actually had the cojones to do it. Can I say cojones in this context? I think I can. It's also brilliant because this takes the courts out of the mix. Judges have no say now. This is an end around from these activist judges that have tried to block all of the deportation efforts. Yeah, what's a judge going to do? No, you can't fly people out of here. Why not? Biden flew them in. No, you can't give them $1,000 to leave the country. Why not? We've been giving them a hell of a lot more than that to stay in the country. There is no constitutional rationale. I mean, listen, I don't think there's any constitutional rationale against the deportations in the first place, but that hasn't stopped judges from overstepping their bounds. But there really is no. This takes the courts out of the scene. What's somebody going to do? Sue for more money? Sue for first class? There's no court proceeding that's enacted in any of these actions. People go to the federal government. They say, yeah, okay, we're going to leave. Give me my money. Give me my ticket. Goodbye. It's great. It makes a lot of sense. Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, amplified the policy.
These illegal aliens that are in our country have the opportunity to go on the CBP Home app, and we will facilitate them finding their way back to their countries. We will pay for their plane ticket. When they get there, we will verify they are who they said they are and that they are in fact back home. And then they will be paid $1,000 as an incentive to go there and to be able to help facilitate their housing or their clothing or their food for the period of time that they're back in their country until they can get themselves settled. And listen, Sean, that's really what this whole situation is about. We spend about $17,000 arresting, detaining, and deporting an illegal alien right now today. If we have the opportunity to purchase a plane ticket and send someone home with a stipend like this, it saves us thousands and thousands of dollars. And it also is a much safer situation for officers and for those in communities. And it gives that illegal an opportunity to come back to the United States of America. Remember, if they wait until we arrest them and deport them, they don't ever get the chance to come back to the United States. They don't ever get a chance at the American dream. So those individuals that are here illegally need to realize this is their opportunity to do things the right way.
It's great. It really does make logical sense. And it's kind of brilliant. This is a carrot and stick situation, right? Where you have the carrot is now being offered after they've seen the big stick for the last several months. And now if you got a brain on your shoulder, in your skull, and a head on your shoulder, you're going to make the right decision and get yourself out of here. Let's talk about the money, though. You heard that right there. It's hilarious to see people on the left. Oh, it's going to cost a fortune. We got 20 million. We're going to give $1,000 each. That's way too many numbers for me to even calculate. How many zeros is that? Of course, these are the same people who denied we had 20 million illegal immigrants in the first place. Remember them? All right, so here's a breakdown on the actual costs involved in this. Bill Maloogian, Fox News.
Yeah, Dana, good morning to you. So Fox News can report exclusively that DHS will announce today that they're going to start paying for the commercial flights of illegal aliens who self-deport from the U.S. And on top of that, they're going to pay them an additional $1,000 stipend once they're confirmed to have left the country. Now, DHS says doing this is going to be significantly cheaper for the American taxpayer. They tell us that right now it costs on average about $17,000 to arrest, detain, and deport someone. They say paying for self-deportations and the stipend will only cost about $4,500 per person. That's about 70% cheaper. Aliens are going to have to register to self-deport on the new CBP Home app to access that DHS financial assistance, as well as announce their intent to leave the country. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem tells Fox in part, quote, "If you are here illegally, self-deportation is the best, safest, and most cost-effective way to leave the United States to avoid arrest." In the meantime, here in the sanctuary city of Los Angeles, ICE confirms to Fox News that 3 suspects arrested in connection with the home invasion murder of a man in the Woodland Hills neighborhood last Sunday are all in the U.S. illegally.
You see, and that's the other part of the cost that isn't being factored in here. I was like, oh, it's going to cost us. Well, look what it costs us right now. They said $17,000 to arrest, detain, and to deport. Well, that's one thing. Hold that thought. You've also got this, the human costs. How many lives do we lose because illegal immigrant criminals are in here who continue their illegal activities and their criminal activities? And then thirdly, there's another factor here that Stephen Miller once again chimed in about, and that has to do with all of the benefits they're receiving. Forget about the human cost, forget about the criminal cost and the decay of our neighborhoods because of the criminal element that was encouraged to stay here. Forget about the $17,000+ it takes to arrest, apprehend, incarcerate, and then eventually deport one of these illegal immigrants compared to the $1,000 in a flight. What about all the benefits? According to Stephen Miller, the cost savings per illegal alien family that accepts voluntary departure will be as much as $1 million. This is based on the welfare and public benefits made available to illegals, which are especially large in blue cities and states. You've seen the city of New York and Chicago plead bankruptcy because they can't afford to take care of all of the illegal immigrants that have been put there by the Biden administration, put there to boost up their population so they can maintain the number of seats in the House of Representatives. It's been very cynical and very calculated, and that's why they're there. But now the cities have to pay for them, and they don't have the money for it, from the schools to the housing to the food. I mean, these are human beings, and they're paying a ton of money for them. And of course, the $1 million isn't just based on the 1 year. It's based on all the years that they're here. Remember our friend, the Maryland man? He was supposed to be deported in 2019. He came here in 2012. He's been here 13 years plus. That's a lot of benefits. That's a lot of cost. The other great thing about this policy, what have we done? It's going to save us money. It's going to be safer. It's going to be an end around from the court system. It's going to save our cities and our federal tax dollars from being spent on benefits for people who aren't tax-paying citizens or voters. There's one other great benefit. It's driving all the right people insane. For instance, this person. I mean, she was already insane, but this drives her even more insane.
Would you advise any undocumented individual who comes to you that maybe they should take the money and go back to their home country? What's your take on it all?
I wouldn't trust this administration for anything. First of all, they are terrible about paying their bills, number one. Number two, most of those people that have come over, regardless of what this administration said, they came over because they were fleeing things such as the fact that they don't have the opportunity to work and earn a living, or they're fleeing political violence. And so
yeah, I need to jump in there really fast, setting aside the political violence part, which actually is not the case. None of these people coming from any of these countries are fleeing political violence. They're coming here for exactly what she said at the beginning, to come here to get a better life. that's basically an admission that they're here illegally and they have lied to obtain entry into this country because they claimed refugee status. And if you watch this program, you watched last week when we had an immigration judge on, that is not a legitimate grounds for refugee status. It is not a legitimate grounds for asylum in this country. There's Jasmine Crockett there, the Democrat who's championing their cause, admitting the fact that they're liars, they're frauds, they're criminals, and they should be deported immediately. If you go in front of an immigration judge and you say, okay, why are you claiming asylum? And you say, because I'm here to work, make money, and have a better life, you are deported immediately because that is not grounds for asylum. Thank you, Jasmine Crockett, for admitting the truth. Right? Thank you. That said, you just saw a sitting congresswoman advising people who are breaking the law in this country illegally and continue to break the laws in this country to stay here and not go back to where they belong. This is Jasmine Crockett, a lawmaker, advising criminals to continue breaking the law and to ignore the law. Because guess what? What Trump is suggesting here is already the law. If you're in this country illegally, you should leave immediately. No $200 for passing go. No $1,000 in a free plane ticket. You should get your butt out of here or we will deport you. Now, we're giving you a little incentive here with $1,000, but that's Jasmine Crockett telling Jake Tapper, nope, they shouldn't do it. They should stay here. They should continue to defy the law. She is literally a lawmaker.
So what is $1,000 if you're going back to a place where you may lose your life? They risk their lives, many of them coming over here in the first place. That's number one. Number two, I want to see some numbers. Where in the heck did you just pull this number out of your back pocket saying that they're costing us approximately $100 million? I'm sorry, not $100 million, $1 million for each undocumented person. The only numbers that we have show that we receive approximately $100 billion in tax revenue from undocumented people, so much so that they decided that they want to go to the IRS and get the IRS to help them as they go and seek these people. You know why? Because they've been working and they've been doing the jobs that now they want to roll back child labor protections and make sure that poor children are the ones that are doing those jobs, because now we're going to have those vacancies, if we're going to have jobs left at all, as we continue to endure the grind of this failed experiment around this tariff war.
All right. So I don't know if you saw, but look who's sitting there at the panel. Look who's the host of this. Look who's interviewing Jasmine Crockett as she speaks. It's our old buddy. It's our old buddy, Jake Tapper, the most serious and important journalist in America. He's there. Look at it. He's got a smart guy glasses and everything. All right. So now we're going to play the clip where Jake Tapper fact checks in real time all the lies Jasmine Crockett just told. Okay, let's play that clip. We don't have that clip. You know why? That clip doesn't exist. Jake just sat there, didn't say a damn thing. But they do notice how he always jumps in and fact checks Republicans or people from the Trump administration if they deliver information, but it never seems to do that with Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine also was the guest speaker at a college graduation. Imagine getting there, you paid for your kid to go to college, and it's the happiest day of their life. It's their last day. They're getting their diploma. They're graduating. Oh my gosh, after all these 4 years of paying your tuition at this very expensive university, and now you get your diploma, you're off to start your life. Who's the speaker at the commencement?
There are going to be people that tell you that you don't belong, and I am here to tell you over and over and over that you absolutely belong. There are people that are going to tell you that there is not a table in which there is a seat for you, but I am here to remind you of Montgomery and those folding chairs. Let me tell you that we know how to use a chair, whether we pulling it up or we doing something else with it. Let me be the first one to tell you that I know that y'all are ready to put your boots on the ground. That's your cue. There we go. Hey.
You ready? With a fan.
She had a music cue for the end of her speech. You know, I take it back. I bet the parents were just thrilled to have Jasmine Crockett at that commencement address. Did she just suggest that they take chairs and start busting it over people's heads if they don't get what they want? That's what it sounded like. Well, That's Jasmine Crockett, and she's very upset at the Trump administration's new policy to deliver $1,000 as a payment, as well as a free ticket for anyone in this country illegally who is self-deporting. She thinks it's a terrible idea. I say let's go with it. As you know, this entire channel could become the Scott Jennings fan account. He continues to do a great job, and he had a great day yesterday pushing back on lie after lie after lie on CNN panels. I mean, look at the chyron right there. Trump, I don't know if I need to uphold the Constitution. Remember, I've told you this trick in the past. Whenever you see something pulled out in either a chyron like that, or in a headline, or in an article, and only 2 or 3 words are in quotation marks, and the rest is just filled in, what that means is the only actual direct quote of what Trump said was, I don't know. So Trump did not say, I don't know if I need to uphold the Constitution. What did he really say? Well, we'll start with Scott Jennings pushing back on the screaming memes on the panel, and then we'll show you what he really said. Buckle up, get ready. I know it's a shock. The media is lying about Donald Trump again. It's very fine people all over again. Let's watch.
We have been invaded by millions upon millions of people, and he was elected to get them out. He was elected to get them out. And what some people are proposing is a backlog system that will never allow us to go.
You're
to get them
describing
out.
illegal immigration, which has been around for a long time, as an invasion, which is fine for you if you want to do that. But why is that unusual that there's a process to go through to deport people? I mean, that's actually just how the system works.
Do you know how long it takes for this process, this paperwork to get people out? The guy that we've all been weeping and gnashing teeth over, the guy we sent to El Salvador, was in the country 14 years illegally.
But what about what
We've got
Dante's-
millions of people who have gamed this system,
what
and
about
now
what
we're going to
Dante-
give it
You
some more.
believe in the Constitution or you don't? And
I believe in the sovereignty of the United States,
do
or
you
you
believe,
don't.
But
So you don't
do
believe
you
in the
believe in the
Constitution? I believe in the
Constitution?
sovereignty of the United
So you
States,
don't
and I
believe in the
believe, and I believe we've
And
been
you don't
invaded.
believe that
Can
Donald
I just
Trump
ask you a
should
question?
abide by the Constitution?
Just a serious question.
Of course I do.
Do you
And of
believe-
course I
Do
believe.
you believe that he does?
And I believe that he will follow, just as he said, what the Supreme Court says. But the policy debate is worth
From the
having.
very beginning, of
Millions
Trump-
upon millions of
when
people are
Trump
here, and they will not
campaigning,
leave, and he
he
has
has
to get them out.
always.
All right,
have
now, unlike Joe Biden, of course, Donald Trump has followed every single decision that the Supreme Court has handed down in his first term as president and continuing on. Can't say that about Joe Biden, by the way. But let's take this head on here. The viewers of this channel who saw our great interview with the immigration lawyer last week, if you like that, give us a thumbs up. Did you love that interview last week with Judge Arthur? Give us a thumbs up on that. And if you didn't see it, go ahead and look on our channel. It's just a couple of days ago. You actually know more about the actual process due a illegal immigrant than anybody sitting on that panel right there. Okay, because he explained exactly what due process is. He was literally an immigration judge. He also helped write immigration and deportation laws. All right, so everybody who watched that hour-long video last week, you're smarter than every single person on that CNN panel, except for Scott Jennings. But let's get to the lie here. I don't know if I need to uphold the Constitution. It comes from this interview with Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, and here's the full context of what Donald Trump said.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth.
But
some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as
I
president?
don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United
don't-
States?
You're just obsessed with that guy, but you just heard it there. You just heard it there. We're going to follow the Constitution. We'll follow we'll follow the Supreme Court's decision, and we have. But the Supreme Court has not said that we can't deport these people. So when he said, "I don't know," he was actually responding to, "I don't know if what she's saying is correct here." It's not, "I don't know if I have to uphold the Constitution." What he's saying is that she is not clear. I don't know if you're actually understanding what the Constitution says about people who are in the country illegally. Here's the thing. If somebody crosses the border illegally and they're apprehended by Border Patrol and they're here in the United States of America, the Border Patrol can turn them around and send them right back across the border where they came from and put them back into the country they came from, whether it's Canada or Mexico. Do you know what that is? That's due process. But these people suggest that if you do that, you're violating the Constitution. Of course you're not. Of course you're not. Kristen Welker, I have a question for you. Is it constitutional for the President of the United States to enforce our borders and to deport people who are in the country illegally, especially if they're deemed a member of a terrorist organization? The answer is yes. That is 1,000% constitutional, and that's what he's done in the case of Abrego Garcia. But I guess what these people really want is for Donald Trump to handle illegal immigration and deportations the way his predecessors did. You know, like Bill Clinton.
Talking roughly 20 million or so who broke the law, and there was no enforcement of the law from the Biden administration, which presented an even bigger issue because they were able to come here illegally without any issues at all. Bill Clinton deported 12.1 million during his presidency. 92 to 93% of those people he deported were sent back without a formal proceeding, aka due process.
All right. Did you hear that? I'll play it again if you didn't. 12 million deported during the 8 years when Bill Clinton, he was hardly a hawk on the border. 12 million deported during Bill Clinton's 8 years as president. 92% of them did not have a formal hearing. That is the process due somebody who's in this country illegally, especially if they've been apprehended for criminal behavior or consorting with criminals. That is the due process. See, this is why this entire muddled conversation is happening in this country, because people, frankly, aren't educated enough to know that due process means the process that is due an individual based on their individual circumstances. You, as a natural-born citizen of the United States, have different due process or processes due you than does someone who just crossed the country illegally, or somebody who crossed the country illegally 10 years ago and has been caught as a gang member. You don't get the same due process. You don't get appeal after appeal after appeal. You don't. You get the process that is due to you. So, of all of the 12 million that Bill Clinton deported, how many were sent home in this way?
Clinton deported 12.1 million during his presidency. 92 to 93% of those people he deported were sent back without a formal proceeding, aka due process. Okay. So look, to what President Trump said, 5 million trials. That's impossible. You can't do it. And the fact that these judges continue to get in the way and try to derail his deportation efforts, it's brutal because, you know, to Caroline's points earlier, the Manhattan Institute estimates an average net fiscal burden of $68,000 per illegal migrant, which actually goes up to $130,000 for those with lower education levels.
That's right. And add that the multiple members of the family, and then spread that over the average number of years they stay here, which is like 4 to 7 years. And that's where you get your $1 million that Stephen Miller was talking about. That's the reality of this. But the lies continue. The lies continue. The "I don't know if I need to uphold the Constitution" lie continues. It's just like very fine people. It's just like there's going to be a bloodbath if I'm not elected. They just continue to lie over and over again. The difference is they don't count on us being able to explain to you the truth. More from Jennings here.
First, did Joe Biden, when he said he would faithfully uphold and execute the laws of this land, not mean it when he decided to let millions upon millions of people into the country? Because he did not execute the laws.
I thought that you were going to squirm out of that question.
I'm not squirming.
Yes, you did. And that's why I prepared for it, because I want to read you something. At the core of Trump's candidacy is a call for greater executive authority with willful disregard for the constitutional limits placed on our chief executive. Trump especially promises to force individual companies to do things he wants them to do, or else he promises punishment to those who displease him, which appeals to the miserable man at the airport bar. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I wrote it.
Exactly.
And here's
So
the deal.
he hasn't
And
changed.
here's
So
the
what has changed about you?
And here's the difference between then and now. This country has been invaded. The president was elected.
So
to
you
end the
changed your
invasion.
opinion on the Constitution?
My opinion is the president needs to pull every lever he can to solve the illegal
So
immigration
you've answered
crisis.
that question by saying you don't mind him being
Do you believe
unconstitutional.
that every immigrant here is the same? You can't believe that because
Yes.
they're not. They're not.
I do.
There's some good, there's some bad. There's some criminal,
I
they're
believe,
not.
I believe
And how
everybody
do you-
who's here illegally
hear
is here
this out.
illegally.
How do
Not
you
all are
differentiate?
violent, but all are here
But
illegally.
how do you differentiate if nobody gets a hearing, if you don't have due process?
I-
How do you distinguish one from the other?
Well,
So what you're saying is every person that's here in this country is a criminal, is a gang member,
No.
should be thrown in jail.
Every person who's
That's
here
what's
illegally,
happening.
every person who is here illegally is in fact a criminal. Some of them do come here and commit violent crimes
Some of
and
them, but
still
how do you
aren't deported.
differentiate if you don't have a
Well,
process?
some have records and some don't.
But they
I'm
still
here to
have
break the news.
constitutional rights.
They're all going
hold on a
away.
second.
Still have constitutional
I want to make
rights.
sure that
Every single person who came here illegally is in fact a criminal, and the fact that that is not logical to half of the people on that panel is mind-numbing. Jennings was just getting started, though. They actually ended up changing the subject at one point, finally, beyond just a constitutional due process, because all of them should watch our interview from last week with Judge Arthur. Here we go, talking about Trump's desire to open Alcatraz. It got even better.
The things that animate him about what he really gets excited about. It is about branding. It is about imagery. It is about kind of this nationalism. The fact that they're going to consider, or probably, I guess now, really have this military parade. We don't need a military parade. We don't need to spend millions or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. But we want to do it because he has to feed his
he said it
inner
himself.
image monster.
he said it himself. He wants.
Are you guys
thinks of
against the
himself as a
military
movie
parade?
maker.
Love the military.
Oh, you cannot
called
you
$100
cannot be
million.
cutting tens of thousands of federal workers at the same time you say we're going to waste money on a military parade.
Why is
And
it
we do not-
wasteful?
It is wasteful.
Why?
It is what do we need to
Well,
show
what's
off
the
our
purpose?
military for? But that strongmen do
military
that.
for
Strongmen
military.
do that. It has nothing to do with pride in the military. Strongmen do that because they want to make their citizens cower. They want to say, we are strong. I am here. I have all these weapons. Aren't you proud of me? We don't need to do that. We know that our military is, multiples the size of anybody else's military on the planet. We don't need them to bring the missiles down Pennsylvania Avenue in order for us to know that.
It's not about the size. In the last 4 years, morale in the military was down, recruitment was down. There is a concerted effort going on right now at the Pentagon, and it's already successful to enhance recruitment and to enhance pride and the idea of joining the military. I think you all are
Yes, a missile on
discounting
Pennsylvania Avenue is gonna
the
make
idea
people
that
run out
a
and join the
national
military.
parade for our military to show off our military, to show pride in the veterans that have defended this country, and you all are mad
Pride
about
in the
it?
veterans. He was just trying to rename Veterans Day.
I'm super proud of our military, but I don't think we should waste money. I think that the worst thing for morale that I've seen is Pete Hegseth as the defense
That's the worst thing you've seen?
for morale.
The literal worst thing you've
I
seen?
think pretty much. I mean, it's embarrassing. If you want to embarrass
Talk
people,
to a rank and
You
file
know
military
what's
person. They'll tell
interesting?
you
I
the
mean,
wet
look,
blanket is off.
Yeah, dude, you had me at Jimmy Carter's grandson. I love that. That's his claim to fame. That, hey, what do you want as your title? What's your job? What's your profession? What's your expertise? Well, I'm Jimmy Carter's grandson. Done. By the way, lost in this entire conversation is that the military parade scheduled for June 14th here in Washington, D.C. is also the 250th birthday of the United States Army. That's right. It's a year older than our nation itself. It was when George Washington was commissioned to put together a Continental Army to fight against the British. And they won. And the U.S. Army deserves something after all, don't they? All right. And then we move on to the Alcatraz conversation.
The idea of reopening a prison that's been closed for many, many decades because it just doesn't make sense to house people there. Why?
Well, does it? I don't know. He said he was going to study it. I mean, we have a prison overcrowding problem. You've been fussing about recently him sending American criminals overseas to their prisons. Don't we need more prisons in the United States? What's wrong with it?
Okay. Well, okay.
I mean, what's the matter?
All right, let's.
Honestly, and again, the greatest superpower that Scott Jennings has is that he turns their own arguments on them, against them, and uses truth and facts that are completely impervious to their illogical brains. And look at that panel too. What a dinner party that is. There's no wonder that Abby Phillips is tanking in the ratings right now. I think she's in the cellar or second to the cellar right now of the major cable networks, even with Scott Jennings. Imagine if Jennings weren't there. Imagine if he weren't the only reason to tune into that show or to that channel. It can't last very long. In fact, it shouldn't last very long because people aren't really watching that show for Scott Jennings. They're watching this show for Scott Jennings. So don't tune in to CNN. Just tune in here tomorrow, the next day, to see what he had to say. I commend you again. If you want clarity on due process for illegal immigrants, people in this country, the actual process of deportation, what immigration judges do, and how these laws were all enacted and how they should be carried out properly and how their due process is very different than an American citizen's due process, please watch the video of our interview from last week. I'm sure that at some point here, Kevin will put a link to that interview down in the show notes here. All right, that's it for today. We got some super chats that we want to get through real fast. Ball State alum, our friend Jeff, $10 super chat. The Hooters Spock's boy seems a bit confused with Justin Crockett. Yeah. Oh, I forgot that he was the spokesperson for Hooters. That would be Jake Tepper. I got to start using that more often. Hooters Spock's boy seems a bit flustered. No, he was the two $10 super chats. Did you mean to do that, Jeff? If you didn't mean to do two, I'll buy you drinks next time I see you. How's that? Thank you for that. Ball State alum 96. Thank you, sir. Susan Shellett, €6. Either you migrate and you abide by the law because you love and accept those laws, or you spit on them and you should not be accepted. Look, I do like, even though I think it was a typo, it does have a European flavor to it. I know, Susan, and I know that all of you in Europe are watching very closely about how we handle these issues. And as soon as we can successfully turn this around, we've already secured the borders. We got that done. Now we got to start deporting people, self-deportation, mass deportation. I know that you in Europe are frothing at the mouth. You're salivating. You're salivating as though you're walking down the streets of Belgium, smelling the great waft of garlic mussels, chocolate, and waffles. Not all on the same plate. Thanks for watching. Thanks for enjoying our special interviews last week while my daughter was getting married. If you'd like to see some pictures, follow me on social media. My X account is Larry O'Connor. My Facebook is The Larry O'Connor. And Instagram is Larry O'Connor Show. I should really get them consistent. And you'll see pictures of the wedding. It was glorious. The Navy and the Marine Corps both involved. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back next time. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me father-in-law Larry.